Prentice John Delaney Jr., better known as Sean Delaney, was an American musician, producer, road manager and songwriter, best known for his work with Kiss from the early 1970s until the early 1980s. Born in 1945 and raised in Tempe, Arizona, Sean would relocate to the East Coast in the early 1960s. Delaney soon established himself as the lead singer of several fairly unsuccessful groups in the New York City area. One such group, Sean Delaney and Trust, signed a recording contract with Elektra Records. Another, a group called Natural Juice, was signed with Columbia Records after being discovered by record mogul Clive Davis. But for various reasons, neither would lead to actual album releases. In 1969, Sean would befriend and soon establish a relationship with future Kiss manager BILL AUCOIN, who at the time was working as a TV producer. According to his own account, it was Sean who persuaded BILL AUCOIN to go and see Kiss perform in concert in August of 1973, a performance that would eventually lead to Bill becoming the official manager of the band later that year. As Bill's partner, Sean would soon become heavily involved in the early development of Kiss. Sean was a key figure in developing the Kiss characters themselves, convincing them to dye their hair blue-black, wear taller platforms, don black and silver clothing. He ran their early rehearsals and he videotaped them so they could learn from the mistakes by watching themselves. Part choreographer, part road manager and part driver would have been an accurate description for Sean's job before Kiss eventually became hugely commercially successful in 1975. Sean is largely credited with developing their choreography on stage. He coached the band as to how to move on stage with the makeup and costumes on, including several signature moves such as the swaying guitar moves at the end of Deuce. Over the next couple of years, Sean would also become involved in songwriting for the band. In fact, he is the only person to have co-written songs with all four original Kiss members. Officially, he is credited on these songs: Take Me, Stanley Delaney, from Rock and Roll Over; Mr. Speed, Stanley Delaney, from Rock and Roll Over; Makin' Love, Stanley Delaney, from Rock and Roll Over; All American Man, Stanley Delaney, from Alive 2; Rocket Ride, Frehley Delaney, from Alive 2. Sean has also claimed to have co-written the Kiss songs Love Gun, I Want You and Rock Bottom, although without receiving songwriting credits for those songs. In 1978, Sean was heavily involved in the production of two of the four Kiss solo albums, namely Gene Simmons and Peter Criss albums, and he also co-wrote a total of 4 of the songs. Sean also produced and remixed Kiss's first greatest hits compilation, Double Platinum, which was also released in 1978. Delaney would also work with artists other than Kiss as the 1970s progressed, notably all acts managed by BILL AUCOIN. These included STARZ, Piper featuring Billy Squier, and Toby BEAU. Sean released his only solo album in January of 1979, titled Highway. It includes 8 original tracks written by Sean and a cover of the Smokey Robinson song You Beat Me to the Punch. It features the same session musicians used on Peter Criss's solo album, including Alan Schwartzberg, who served as a session drummer while Peter was recovering from a car accident. After releasing the 1979 solo album, Sean formed a band called Skatt Bros. That band would release 2 albums, Strange Spirits 1979 and Rico and the Ravens 1981, but without much success, and the band would eventually disband in 1981. In the early 1980s, Sean would unfortunately fall out with Kiss, Among other things, there were disagreements over royalties for the songs he produced for the band, and Creatures of the Night would be the final album and staging where he was involved in the production development. Sean felt his many contributions to the band was greatly undervalued, a fact he would become increasingly bitter about over the coming decades. In 1984, Sean worked briefly with Canadian band The Nylons, but after that he basically dropped off the radar for the next 15 years. Sean started working on his autobiography in 1997. By December 2001, Delaney had essentially completed work on the book, and was in active discussions for publication. It would eventually be released in 2004 under the title of Sean Delaney's Hellbox. In 2002, Sean managed the English country duo Smith and Jackson. He met them while they were on the Country Thunder USA tour in 2002. After the tour, he moved to Sunderland in the northeast of England and wrote numerous songs with the pair and assisted in the recordings of their album Rivertown. Sadly, Sean Delaney died in Orem, Utah on Sunday, April 13, 2003 from a stroke. Struggling with diabetes for years, Delaney had suffered a series of strokes before his untimely death at the age of only 58. After his death, Sean Delaney would finally receive some of the recognition he so desperately wished for while he was still alive. Peter Criss wrote in his book Make Up to Break Up, "Sean Delaney was in my estimation the fifth member of Kiss. He was a tremendously talented creative force. Sean never got the credit he deserved for making us into superstars. He had his hand in everything we created, from our personas to our wardrobe to our staging. He even contributed to the songs." Upon Sean's death, Gene Simmons let the old quibbles go and posted a nice tribute. "Sad to report that Sean Delaney, our first road manager, co-writer and much more, has passed away. Bill Aucoin, the band's first manager, called to tell me the sad news. Our condolences to the Delaney family. Sean and I spoke only a few weeks ago. He told me he had just started working with a new English country and western band. Aucoin also told me about that venture. Sean seemed happy to be working on something he cared about again. He also asked if he could introduce us when we played in his hometown, and I, of course, said yes. We both made plans to see each other when we arrived in his city. Sadly, he will not be able to introduce us. But, in more ways than one, Sean was one of the pivotal people in all our lives. He believed when the world did not. He was there for us in the beginning and helped shape the direction of the band. He will be missed."